So Andrew, what if I told you that at the time of you starting your Social Security benefits, the government could actually step in and extract up to $498 from those benefits? How would that make you feel?
I would feel very frustrated.
And I can certainly understand that, because you would be in line with about 2 million other Americans who would feel exactly the same way under a provision known as the Windfall Elimination Provision. So under this provision, if you have actually earned enough credits to earn a Social Security monthly check off of your own record, but also you work for a government entity that is actually going to pay you a pension in your retirement, because of that scenario, they can come in and extract a certain amount of those dollars from your Social Security benefits under the Windfall Elimination Provision. So we're going to dive in today on how this provision could affect you if you work for a state, local, or government entity. Hi, my name is Carson, President and CEO of the Retirement Education Center.
And my name is Andrea, Director of Operations at the Retirement Education Center. And our goal for making these educational videos is to help to make the difficult and stressful process of retirement income planning simple.
Absolutely, and we do this by incorporating a team of expert advisors ranging from certified financial analysts, certified financial planners, estate attorneys, insurance advisors, and other needed professionals that's going to let our clients know when, where, and how to take money from their retirement savings.
For specialized strategies on how to maximize your retirement income, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the notification bell to be notified when we upload new videos.
So if you actually spent part of your career, Drea, in the private sector, and then you also spent some time in the public sector where you're going to receive a pension, you're probably going to have to brace yourself for this little provision, or big provision, however you want to look at it, known as a Windfall Elimination Provision, or better known as WEP. So when we're discussing the Windfall Elimination Provision, it's going to apply to people who, as I mentioned, have worked in the private and public sector, and they're going to be receiving a Social Security benefit and a pension from that public job as well. Now, there is another provision known as the Government Pension Offset that we created a separate video discussing how that can also impact your Social Security income. But today, we're only going to focus on the Windfall Elimination Provision and how that can impact your Social Security benefits. So before we get into that, there are 2 rules to retirement income that we always want to give you before we start our lesson for today. And Andrew, what are those 2 rules?
Well, rule number 1 is to never run out of money. And rule number 2 is to never forget rule number 1.
Yes, so let's talk about the Windfall Elimination Provision and how this may impact your Social Security benefits. So let's go ahead and start our discussion today about the Windfall Elimination Provision. The Windfall Elimination Provision applies if you have 40 Social Security credits on your own work history, and you're also going to be receiving a pension from a non-Social Security system as well. So in this provision, the good thing about it is that you will be guaranteed to receive a benefit. And this provision is pretty important because it affects about 3% of all Social Security beneficiaries. So over 2 million Americans will be affected by this provision. Now, there is another provision known as the Government Pension Offset that could reduce your benefits down to 0. And we're not going to talk about that in this particular class today, but we have made a video on this, and we encourage you to go take a look at it, because it's very different from the Windfall Elimination Provision. So why is the Windfall Elimination Provision such a big deal? So here's what is going to happen to you if you fall under this provision. When you're talking about your regular Social Security benefits, as I mentioned in a prior video on calculating your Social Security benefits, which I really encourage you to go take a look at if you want to understand how these band points work. But we talked about how this works in that particular video, and I want to review that just a moment here. So in 2021, when they're calculating your regular Social Security benefits, they're going to use these band point calculations, and they base it off of 90% of the first $996 of your AMI, your annual index monthly earnings. And they look at the 32% of your AMI up to $6,002 minus the $996. And then they take 15% of your AMI minus the $6,002 if you qualify for this category, meaning that you have an AMI more than this amount. And so when they're calculating this compared to your Windfall Elimination Provision, things are a little bit different only in the first band point. So you can see here in your regular Social Security calculation, it's 90% of the first $996. But then when you're under the windfall elimination provision, that first bin point calculation is 40% if you have 20 or less years of substantial earnings. And we're going to talk about that in our next slide here. That is how you can be very well impacted by the windfall elimination provision.
So Carson, are you saying that if I receive my own Social Security benefit and I'm entitled to a government pension, that I may not get 100% of my Social Security income?
Unfortunately, Andrew, that's absolutely correct when it comes to the windfall elimination provision. Now, it's not always the case, depending on certain scenarios, and we're going to talk about that in our next slide here. But for many Americans, that if they fall under that provision, they will not receive 100% of their Social Security income. So let's talk about some other scenarios in which that may not be the case. So what are substantial earnings? Well, in 2021, substantial earnings, according to the Social Security Administration, is $26,550. And I'm sure many of you out there looking at this video are saying, that's really not substantial earnings in my book. But according to the Social Security Administration, that is the amount of dollars that they consider to be substantial earnings. And so why is that really important when it comes to the windfall elimination provision? Well, as I mentioned before, if you have 20 years or less of substantial earnings, your first bin point calculation for your Social Security benefits are going to be calculated at 40%. And every year that you have more years of substantial earnings, if you have 25 years of substantial earnings, that first bin point is going to be calculated at 65%. And as you can see, if you have 30 or more years, you can completely graduate yourself out of this windfall elimination provision. So if you have 30 or more years of earning $26,550 or more, your bin point will not be affected by the windfall elimination provision. So yes, you can actually eliminate that provision with your own work history. So let's go ahead and look at our first example for today. So Mr. I Don't Know is going to have an Amy of $1,500. Mr. I Don't Know is also going to be receiving a state pension of $1,200, and he does not have any years of substantial earnings. So his primary insurance amount is going to be calculated as such. Without the windfall elimination provision, we're going to take a look at that first. His first bin point is going to be $996 times the 90%, which is going to give him $896.40. And then we're going to move over to the second bin point now to get his second calculation. And that's going to be his Amy, the $1,500, minus the $996 times 32%, giving him a total of $161.28. And just for reference, he didn't make the third bin point. So his Amy would have had to have been more than $6,002. So he didn't have anything in this third bin point. So in this bin point is going to be zero. So his PIA at his full retirement age, remember, at his full retirement age is going to be $1,058. So let's move over and take a look at how this is going to impact Mr. I Don't Know when they finally include his windfall elimination provision because he's receiving his pension. Well, of course, he doesn't have any years of substantial earnings. So his first bin point calculation is going to be at 40%. So it's going to be $996 times the 40%, giving him $398 in that first bin point. And so his second bin point is going to be exactly the same as it was without the windfall elimination provision. So it's the $1,500 minus the $996, which is really $504 times 32, which is $161.28. And so therefore his windfall elimination provision at this point, instead of being $1,058, is $559. So he would have a reduction in his benefit of $499. But wait, there's more. There is a maximum reduction when it comes to the windfall elimination provision. And for 2021, that maximum reduction they cannot take from your benefits is $498. There's also another unique provision when it comes to the windfall elimination provision is that the government will never reduce your benefit by more than 50% of whatever your pension amount is going to be. So in this particular example here, Mr. I Don't Know, instead of having a reduction of $499, will have a reduction of only $498. And therefore, his amount of Social Security benefits that he's going to be receiving now, along with his pension, is only going to be $560. Of course, upon getting this information, Mr. and Mrs. I Don't Know, they're very furious about that. But there is another caveat to this situation here. Upon the passing of Mr. I Don't Know, he's passed away, rest in peace, Mr. I Don't Know, Mrs. I Don't Know will receive $1,058, his full primary insurance amount from Social Security. She will not receive the reduced amount. She's going to get the full amount upon his passing. And of course, upon understanding that did put a smile on Mrs. I Don't Know's face. So let's go ahead and take a look at our final example here of the day. Mrs. I Don't Know, we're going to look at her now. She has an AMI of $1,200 in this particular example. And Mrs. I Don't Know is going to be receiving a state pension of $500. And she has 21 years of substantial earnings. So her PIA is going to be calculated as the following. So without the windfall elimination provision, we're going to look at that first. Her first being point, as we mentioned, is 996 times 90, which is 896.40. Her second being point is going to be her AMI minus the 996 times, of course, 32%, which gives her 65.28. And of course, she doesn't meet the third being point. We didn't need to include it on this slide here. And so her PIA at her full retirement age, if there is no windfall elimination provision, will be $962. But remember, we talked about substantial earnings in our prior slide. She has 21 years of substantial earnings. So that means that her first calculation is going to be calculated at 45%, not 40%. So in this situation here, you can see that it's 996 times 45, which gives her $448 for the first being point. And then the second being point, of course, remains the same at 65.28. So her windfall elimination provision amount would be $441 as opposed to her PIA of $962. So she has a reduction of $521. But recall from my prior slide, you can never have a reduction of more than $598, which Mrs. I Don't Know falls into that category. Plus, your benefit can never be reduced by more than 50% of your pension. So she's only going to have a benefit reduction of only $250 because it can never be more than 50% of her pension. So the actual amount that she's going to receive under the windfall elimination provision in her situation is $712. Of course, again, this infuriates both Mr. and Mrs. I Don't Know, but the same rules apply. If Mrs. I Don't Know were to pass before Mr. I Don't Know, he would receive the full $962 of her benefit amount. So upon knowing that, it makes Mr. I Don't Know a little bit happier.
To learn more about our services and how we can help you to increase your chances of not outliving your retirement savings, make sure to click on the link in the description below and sign up for our free Maximizing Your Retirement Income Masterclass. After this video, please check out our other videos that we've created that will give you tips on how to maximize your retirement income. Also, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and share it with a friend. Thanks for watching, and remember, if you have questions,
we have answers.